Okay.
Okay, go.
Go.
It's already
Okay, all right. So the last video I was starting the last example I was repeating it. So this is actually what I meant. I realized that I was doing the same example twice. So now we're starting out with the inequality in it. It's a less than inequality. We're still solving to get the bars alone first. Always get the bars alone. I like to put it in a different color so it pops out that in the room you have other numbers, the positive 1 and the negative 3. This negative 3 is closest to that, so that goes last. Best friends go last. So 10 minus 1, 9. So we have negative 3, the absolute value of x plus 4. Now we have to get rid of the negative 3. I like to put this little dot to remind myself it's multiplication. Opposite of multiplication is division. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. When we divide by a negative, we flip the sign. So instead of less than, it's greater than. So we have the absolute value of x plus 4 is greater than negative 3. So normally when the bars are alone, you make two cases. But here, when you have a negative and absolute value, stop and think. Don't make your two cases. So we're saying some distance, because it's, remember, absolute value is the math way of saying distance. So some distance, we don't know exactly what distance we're talking about, but some distance is greater than negative 3. So no matter what that distance is, it's always going to be greater than negative 3. Because even if it's the smallest distance, it's positive. Even if it's a tiny little distance, it's going to be positive. So like 1 inch is greater than negative 3. 0.25 inches is greater than negative 3. So no matter what this distance is, it will always be greater than positive 3. So this statement will always be true. We're looking for values of x that will make it true, but it will always be true. So no matter what x is, it's going to be true. So x can be anything. So the last one was no solution. This one, it's infinite solutions. X can be anything, any number. X can be any number. And you can try it out for yourself. You can put in different x values. If x was 10, 10 plus 4. The absolute value of 14 is the distance between 14 and 0. The distance between 14 and 0 is 14. 14 is greater than negative 3. That's true. So when we plugged in 10, it makes it true. Don't try to do all these zooming in things. Okay, just keep it like from a distance. Come on, seriously. Okay.
I am going.
Okay.
Sheesh.
Okay, so
No fun.
so because it's late.
Go.
Okay, so no matter what x is, well, we tried x is 10. So when we plugged in 10, we got the absolute value of 14. The distance from 14 to 0 is 14. 14 is greater than negative 3. So that value keeps it true. If x was negative 10, so x equals 10 is one solution. If x was negative 10, negative 10 plus 4 is negative 6. The distance from negative 6 to 0 is positive 6. The distance from negative 6 to 0, that distance is positive 6. 6 is greater than negative 3. No matter what the distance is, it's always going to be positive. And that's true. That's true. So when we plugged in negative 10, that is also a solution because it keeps the statement true. We're looking for x values that will make it true. You can try as many x values as you want and it will always be true. So when you have a negative, stop and think. Distance will always be greater than a negative number. I'm going to write that down. You should write it down in your notes too. Distance will always be greater than a negative number. So this is all real numbers are your solutions. So you have infinite solutions. The symbol for that is that R with the extra line is all real numbers. Any number will keep this true. The last example, we had the absolute value. When we got the absolute value bars alone, we had the absolute value of x plus 4. And we ended up with, absolute value of x plus 4 less than negative 3. So when you have a negative, stop and think. Stop and think. This is saying the distance is less than negative 3. Whatever your distance is, it will be a positive number, even if it's a small distance. That distance is not going to be less than negative 3. That would be saying that the distance could be negative 4 or negative 5, but that's impossible You cannot have a negative distance. So here, this is no solution. This is no solution. There's no number that will make this true. So if I put in, for example, 10 plus 4, the absolute value of 14. The absolute value of 14 is 14. The distance from 14 to 0 is 14. 14 is not less than negative 3. That's not true. This is saying 14 is less than negative 3. And it's not. That's not true. That's false. So 10 is not a solution. So if you plug in a different number, negative 10. Negative 10 plus 4. That gives you negative 6. The distance from negative 6 and 0 is positive 6. 6, this says 6 is less than negative 3. That's not true. 6 is not less than negative 3. 6 is greater than negative 3. So this is not true. So negative 10 is not a solution. You can plug in solutions all day and you're never going to get an X value that will make this true because this is saying distance is less than negative 3. The distance will not be less than negative 3. The distance will always be positive. So that distance has to be greater than 0. So this is no solution. So when you have a negative, stop and think. In the last video, we also had an absolute value equation where we had the absolute value of, so this one right here would be no solution. The absolute value of x plus 4 is equal to negative 3. This is saying the distance is equal to negative 3. That's also no solution. Your distance will never be equal to a negative number. So compare all these three cases, all these three scenarios, but anytime you have a negative with absolute values, stop and think. And then in your examples, you're going to be having examples where you're going to have to stop and think. And then you're going to have examples where you're going to have to solve all the way. And you're going to have to make your two cases. If this was positive, then you would make your two cases. Okay, so please discuss, compare with your notes from yesterday, and help each other out. Have a good day.